Hey guys, and welcome to another video here on our channel, The Guide. I'm Benjamin, also known as Tess, and today we have the next FIFA 21 tutorial video for you already. This time it's about crossing, and this might become a very valuable tool in FIFA 21. Thanks to EA and also the Game Changer Network, we already had the opportunity to play FIFA 21, but keep in mind this was still in development and therefore the final version of FIFA 21 may differ. So this video is a guide to crossing, and it includes the settings, and this is very important because the settings are changed in FIFA 21, and then also all the different crossing variations that you can do in FIFA 21, 3 completely new ones and 6 in total. And in this video we will explain the instructions for all the different crossing variations and already give you some ideas in what kind of situations you should use them. But before we start, I want to make you aware of our Instagram channel. With the start of FIFA 21, we are going to step it up and post more snackable content like player reviews or quick formation guides. We're getting close to a big milestone, 10k followers. Not only that this is a crazy number, but reaching that would help us a lot since it unlocks the swipe up function. So we would highly appreciate it when you would help us and follow us on our Instagram. The content should be worth it as well. You can find the link in the video description, and now let's start with a guide to crossing. Before we start, we have to talk about the settings. I know this might not be the most interesting topic, but it's necessary since FIFA 21 changed how the settings for crosses have an influence on your cross. There are 3 settings: assisted, manual and semi. To put it quite simple, the semi setting of the last couple of years is similar to the assisted setting now in FIFA 21. Let's have a look at some examples, and we start with semi, which was the default setting in the last couple of years. You were able to aim quite sloppy and not necessarily in the right direction. This is different now, as you can see in these examples. When you're on the wing and don't aim properly into the box, you will put one cross after another into the stance. Let's look at how it works for assisted. As you can see, you don't have to aim as precisely, but the assistance still helps you to get the cross to your teammate. Now you're probably wondering, why should you play with semi or manual, at which you have to be even more precise, instead of assisted? 2 reasons. First, semi gives you more freedom. You have more possibilities to influence the cross with your aiming. Second, the crosses with a semi setting have less error according to the information that we got from gameplay producers. So they are less likely to be affected by error and end up missing your teammate. So what should you use? I think there are some upsides for the semi setting, but you have to be very cautious about your aiming for every cross. Therefore, this is a part of your game that you have to be willing to spend some time on. It's a learning process that you aim properly with the left stick, and at some point it will become second nature for you. But as long as this isn't the case, you probably won't benefit from the semi setting as much it's going to cost you when you screw up the aiming. This is even more true for the manual setting. On the other hand, my impression so far is that the crosses with the assisted setting are still very good, and I consider to use it for myself. So to put it quite simple, if you're not a hardcore gamer, the assisted setting is sufficient for you. But if you're up for the challenge, feel free to try out the semi setting. Maybe you get along with it very well and squeeze out some additional percentages in terms of performance. Let's start with just the normal cross. The input is the most simple one. With the default button layout, you just press the square button on PlayStation or the X button on Xbox, which we will refer to as the crossing button from now on. When you're on the wing in the crossing zone, your player crosses the ball inside the box. This is just the default way to play a cross. Your player inside the box usually will try to convert it with a header, but if he has enough time and also enough room, he can position himself in a way that he can also go for a volley. And by the way, for demonstration purposes, we set the AI to a low difficulty to showcase all these different variants. So don't expect to always have as much space. Next up we have the driven cross, which is one of the new variants in FIFA 21. Similar to the driven pass, you use the R1 or RB button as a modification for the cross. So hold this button while you press the crossing button, and the result is a more powerful cross, which also tends to travel at waist height. That way your attacker is more likely to score from a volley with a driven cross. This cross is particularly useful when you see that your player is in front of the defender and open, because the driven cross is very fast and therefore you can rapidly take advantage of this situation inside the box. Everybody who played FIFA 19 is more than familiar with the high cross that you play by using the L1 or LB button as the modification. Why? Because this cross was totally overpowered back then. Well, anyway, it's still in the game and travels quite long in the air due to its high arc. This does give your players a lot of time to get in a position to go for the cross, but this is also the case for the opponent's defenders. Therefore, it's not recommended to use this cross when you have an open player inside the box, since it does give the opponent too much time to contest it. I think the best situation to use it is when you know that you have a clear mismatch between your player and the opponent's one, meaning you have a player which is an absolute god in the air due to his height and or jumping. With that long travel time, he get in a proper position to then outjump the opponent. The whipped cross is a new and in my opinion one of the most interesting variants in FIFA 21. You play it by using both shoulder bumpers, so L1 plus R1 or LB plus RB. The cross is played with some undercut and therefore travels for some time in the air, but not as high as the high lobbed cross. This makes it very dangerous because there are a lot of positions from which your player can try to convert it. Especially when your attacker has some free space to move into, he can get to the cross without an opponent interfering, since the whipped cross tends to be played in a leading way, meaning more forward, closer to the goal. This makes this variant so dangerous and hard to defend. The low cross is a well-known tool in FIFA to score goals, and we already have a tutorial about it, but for FIFA 20. Even though the instructions are slightly different, we still recommend watching this video, because it explains a lot about the situations at which you can utilize this cross to your advantage. In FIFA 21, the low cross only works with a double tap of the crossing button, so you have to press it once to power up your cross and then tap it a second time to give the instructions for a low cross. In FIFA 20 it was also possible to do it with the R1 or RB button without the double tap, but this is now occupied by the driven cross as shown earlier. At the end we come to a real special one. I have to admit that I'm really fascinated by this cross. It's the low driven one. And the first few times I did it, I couldn't believe my eyes. Basically, you do a low cross with a double tap of the crossing button while you hold R1 or RB as the modification. The result is a low cross which is played super hard. But keep in mind that this footage isn't from the final game and therefore it might be not as hard when you try it out. Because I think if it stays like this, it's a little bit too good. So this cross is particularly useful when you see that your attacker is open inside the box and no defender is in a position to block the cross. With a low driven cross, you get the ball right to your attacker to bang it in. FIFA 21 added a lot of variations to crossing, and the first signs are that crossing could be a valuable tool in your arsenal to score goals. So it makes sense to get to know all variants, experiment with it and discover the up and downsides of it. This is what we will be doing, and as soon as we have more insights and understanding in the particular variations, we will follow this up with more helpful content. So make sure to follow this channel and activate notifications to not miss any of these videos and stay ahead of the competition. If you're interested in getting better in FIFA in one of the most efficient ways, feel free to check out our individual coaching offers with our Pro, Top 100 and Elite coaches. You can find all the information and book your private session for a coaching that is tailored to your specific needs on our website. The link is in the video description. Thanks for your attention, keep a clean sheet, I'm out.